all about gangsters in this video. You know, if somebody was to ask me, hey, how many gangsters do you have on your tree? I would have to say, yeah. Yes, sometimes it feels like I'm going to have all of them. So if you've watched the recent videos, you know I've done a lot of videos and connections on gangsters to Mia Familia. Now, not every video is about gangsters on my tree. I mean, I did a number of videos where you can see like Philip Zimbardo and Angelo Badalamenti, who wrote a song with Anthrax. So I mentioned in a recent video that I was thinking about Frank Zappa again, and he was the first one in the videos of famous Sicilians. And he's from Pardonico. And I was saying, hey, a lot of these Western Palermo cities go back to Cardini, Sicilia eventually. So, hey, let me see if Frank Zappa is connected to me. And so far, I can't find a connection, and I've gone back pretty far. It doesn't always work out. But I was able to, but it got me thinking. So I did a video on the original Godfather. There he is, Philip Maranzano. And he was from Castelmagno di Golfo, and that is in Trapani, which is right next door to Palermo. And it was surprising that it turned out part of his family does go back to Cardini, and they're related. See some of the other ones. Yeah, here's some Gaetano Badalamenti, who killed his boss here, Caesar Manzella and Genesi. So what? I got me thinking, what other the mafioso from Castelmagno di Golfo may be connected to me? So I figured, let's look at Joseph Bonanno or Joe Bananas, who actually died in Tucson, Arizona. I didn't have a Tucson shirt for the video, so this is going to have to do it. Not all the information is going to be always accurate on Wikipedia, but here it's pretty good. I mean, they do have their sources, so you definitely want to verify that. So I wanted to see if this particular gangster was related to me and on my tree in some way. And I'll get to that, but just a little background. Joseph Bonanno was born into a criminal organization, and that made it a bit more difficult to find records for him. I mean, I've noticed you start researching criminal families, they don't have church records. Who would have thought, right? So together with the Bonanno family, the Magadinos, and the Bonventuri, they had a lot of control over the mafia in Castelmagno di Golfo, and they had a long-standing feud with the Bucalata clan. And I'll get to them. And they did wind up going to the United States. A lot of them did immigrate. Brooklyn, for example, and this isn't the history of the Sicilian Mafia in the United States. Through the Mafia War, the early 20s, through the Mafia War, a lot of them from Castelmagno di Golfo, there was a big war between Joe Massera, Joe the Boss Massera, and Salvador Maranzano. Now, Joe Bonanno was very high up in the Maranzano organization. Well, in 1930, 1931, Joe the Boss was murdered, and Lucky Luciano with Salvador Maranzano, they set up the five families, and Joe Bonanno was one of the heads of the five families, especially after Salvador Maranzano was murdered. I got a lot more information about Salvador Maranzano in his video, so check that out if you have not. So he took control of the family in 1931 until 1968. And what's amazing is that there's actually an interview with him. Now, I really opened up a Pandora's box with this. This is actually the first of a series of videos I'll be doing about gangsters and their possible connection to Mia Familia, and as well as just going and showing their family line. And when I started this for the work for this video, and it took a huge amount of work to do this, the interview with Joe Bonanno in 1982 with 60 Minutes, Mike Wallace. I mean, a gangster talking to Mike Wallace. The full interview is online, and in the weeks I was working on this, it's gone. But there is part of it. And what gets me about this is how cavalier he is talking about a insanely violent criminal organization he calls a family, and how he talks about some of the most violent people in modern history. That being Lucky Luciano and Al Capone. And, of course, Joe Bonanno is no saint. He was a criminal, too. His son in the interview is a little more candid about the type of family that it was. So I just want to play part of this so you could see just how he talks about Al Capone.
You knew Al Capone.
Oh, I happen to know him, you know.
What kind of a man?
Al Capone was a very jolly guy.
Al Capone was a jolly guy?
Jolly guy.
What do you find so funny, Bill?
My reaction is to your reaction, surprise.
Well,
I like him.
why did you like him?
For his character, for his approach, for his the way he handled himself, the external appearance. But I never know Al Capone from inside.
Charles Lucky Luciano. What was his power? What was his talent? What kind of a man?
He believed to make money.
What's wrong with his wanting money? I mean, Bonanno wanted money.
All right, so it's amazing that we have video like this of one of the original heads of the five families in New York, this criminal organization, the Bonanno family. Wow. Hopefully somebody's going to re-upload that entire interview because it's definitely worth watching. So Joe Bonanno, I mean, he actually did have some, like I said, you know, there was blood family that was part of his criminal organization. He grew up in that. That's what he knew. And they had a group called the Good Killers. And there's actually, I got a headline, wow. Assassin shoots victim's head off. I guess they were a little bit more blunt back in the day. This was actually a Francesco Finazzo, who will be in another video, but it was pretty violent. There was a lot of killings going on. So you can see, here's a picture of them, and we've got Stefano Magaddino and Vito Bonventri. These are very important because these guys are important because they were very closely related blood-wise to Joseph Bonanno. So the questions are, is Joe Bonanno on my tree and related to me? Does his family in part go back to Canini, Sicilia? And the answer is yes. Joe Bonanno is related to me distantly, and he is on my tree. Unfortunately, given that he is born into a criminal family, the record's not as good. For example, I can't find a baptism record for him. It's not, I have a birth record. So here I've got the birth record. So they were right on here. They were pretty close on his birthday. So I do have, so that's his birth record. It made it, I am able to get Antenati, does have the civil records, but they don't go back before 1820. The church records go back to like 1650 or something like that. So they're really good. And you get them on Family Search. What's unfortunate, now the son in one of the interviews talks about how the Bonanno family, they were involved with the Leaning Tower of Pisa, that they were an architect or something. That was Italy. And I personally can't make the connection because what is unfortunate, I have the marriage record for Giuseppe Bonanno, which is Giuseppe's great-grandfather. And you can see it here. They are unknown. So when you see parentis ignoti, that is parents unknown, which means Giuseppe Bonanno's great-grandfather rather, was a foundling, or he was abandoned, which is really unfortunate. I did trace the Valloni line back, and there is a Diego Bonanno, and I got that going way back. So I'm guessing they kind of knew the family, and that's where he picked up the name Bonanno. Can't say for sure. Don't know. Yeah, I can't get that far back on the direct line, so I don't know. I don't know whether they were involved. The Bonannos were involved with. Could have been Bonanno, but there's no way to connect this direct line because it stops. We don't know anything beyond about 1829. So that's unfortunately going to happen. So how in the world did this gangster from Castiglione di Golfo, how did he wind up getting on my tree? How is he connected to me? Well, if we go through his parents, and before I do that, I got to do this. I got to show how Bonventri and Stefano Magaddino, because Stefano Magaddino was in charge, so the commission was set up by Lucky Luciano, and Stefano Magaddino was in control in Buffalo. I'm actually from Buffalo. So if we see here, Vito Bonventri, there we go. So we can see that he is a Vito Bonventri, who is one of the good killers. I mean, he's one of the good killers over here, or the good, who was murdered in 1931. It was pretty gruesome. The details are he was killed, dismembered, and put in one of his own bakery ovens. So, yeah, good people. So he is actually the Giuseppe Bonanno's uncle. And as for Magaddino, we could see here, yes. Then we've got Stefano Magaddino. He is a cousin to Giuseppe Bonanno. So he is a cousin through his mother's line. So it is through his mother's line that I am able to go back. It's actually the Bonventri. And we click on Rosario Gallo, and look what we got. Ventimiglia. And I've noticed this with the Sicilian records. You have certain areas, you have certain names associated with those towns. And Ventimiglia does not belong in Castiglione di Golfo. That is Terracini or Genesi or Carini. So I said, after all this work, I'm going to be able to connect it and get this guy on my tree. And so I go and I find that marriage record. And see, and that's kind of how I did it. I did a whole video about this, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. I start with his parents, and then I get their marriage record. That's going to give me his grandparents, and then I get their marriage records, and then I'm able to keep going back. But I will not add them to the tree unless I have the records to prove that. I go here, we've got Battista Ventimiglia and Giovanna Finazzo. Ventimiglia, Finazzo, that's almost 100% of the time, that's going to be Terracini. And this was and so the connection to Mia Familia actually is with Giovanna's parents. That connects them to me. You can see Lucretia Buffa. Hello. So yes, that's what connects them to me. I know it's far back, but that's how I got him on my tree. So I've got a lot more work to do. It was a tremendous amount of work. And if you'd like to be able to support the channel so I could do more videos like this more frequently, or just do more videos more frequently because it was so much work, I added like 1,000 more people to my tree in the last month or so doing the research for this particular video. So you can do so in the description, and also the store. And I have a new shirt available, which is appropriate for this particular video. Genealogy, I know where all the bodies are buried. So if you want to support the show, you can do it that way, and that is much appreciated. So I mentioned earlier that the Bonanno, Magaddino, and Bonventri families had a long-time fight against the Buccellato clan in Castiglione di Golfo. And I had to know, how did they fit into this, if at all? So I did a search on my tree, and it turned out I had one Buccellato, and it's this Salvador. And when I found it, I didn't even have his first name, because I had gotten a record for Serafina here, and all it had was the last name. So I had one Buccellato, and it turns out I was able to get I have all the records to prove this. He was from his parents are from Castiglione di Golfo, and Serafina is part of Mia Familia. She was born in Detroit, but her parents are from Carini, and they're related to me. So I'm thinking, oh, so the clan that Joe Bonanno, his family is fighting against, one of them married into Mia Familia. Now, I have a lot of more research to do, so I can't show all the connections there, but I do have 17 more Buccellatos on the tree, so I'm filling in the gaps, and I'll present that in another video. But since I showed that Salvador Buccellato was from Detroit, the commission included Detroit.
Take him to Detroit. No, not Detroit. No, please.
And the leaders in the Detroit Mafia, well, this is why it was a huge amount of work. All right, so the next video is going to deal with the leaders of the Detroit mob, and we'll find out if they are related to me and on my tree, and if they are connected to, of course, Joe Bonanno.
Now go home and get your fucking shine box.